So, what I mean by that, I'm still just like I was when I first started.
Well,
No different.
where was it that you first started playing the fiddle, or what instrument did you first start playing?
I guess it was a fiddle. I don't remember, to tell you the truth about it.
Uh-huh.
It's down in Georgia. I was 11 years old. I'll be 59. My next birthday is 1911. And my dad was one of these sophisticated Irish violin players. He's the one I learned all this fancy fiddling from.
And he knew how to read music? And
Oh,
all
yeah. He'd put on his long steel coat and his high hat, you know, to get in front of the mirror and play by himself. And he grinned at himself all that, but boy, he could play. He got so fast he couldn't. Oh, Lord.
What town was the city?
They settled in Dallas, Georgia, the McMichens, when they came over from Ireland, Scotland, rather. We're Scotch. Everybody thinks we're Irish, but we're actually Scotch. And they were the type that swim the river, the boys were, over there to get to them Scotch gals and take them wives back home and so they mixed up their Scotch Irish. That's how come he's Scotch Irish. And that's whatever part that is. You look up the geography of how close Ireland and Scotland is here in that bay. It's swimming distance someplace there. I don't know myself, but I've heard them tell about it. And so they immigrated from Scotland to the United States. I imagine about, I'll say about 1801 or 2, somewhere along there. That's my imaginary idea of it, because my grandpa, he was 4 years old when the war between the states was going on. And he died at about 80 years old, there in the same place, Georgia. And so it adds up that they must have, now his dad and Uncle Charlie and aunts and all of them, you know, and my great uncles and aunts, they were on the boat that came over. And they all could play fiddles. Every one of them was fiddlers. Some of my old uncles tried to play. They never would get down to the actual business and spend enough time on to learn to play. Well, I was too lazy to work. I come here to learn to play the fiddle.
Did you just learn by ear?
Yeah, I learned by just listening to them.
But your father could read.
Yeah, he was the oomph of it. He was an educated one of the whole outfit. And
what songs did you learn from your?
Every one
all
of
those
them.
early ones you used to play.
Every one of
names
them.
on them.
Yeah. Well, that you know that thing they called the Sugarfoot Rag? That was one of my daddy's tunes. Oh Lord, what a pretty little widder. If I was young now, I'd go and get her. Have you got that record?
I don't know.
I don't believe you have.
I don't have no.
Little Widder, we called it.
I have it at home. Pretty Little Deer is on there. Not Pretty Little Widder.
Well, that's where they got their Sugarfoot Rag from. The boys down at Nashville copied it off of that. And I was raised enough hill to send 40 men to death about it. There's nothing I could do about it. And he was the originator of that. And the Pile of Cabbage down, that's one of my own get-ups.
Oh, yeah?
Period.
What year did you write that about?
About 1938 or 9.
Pile of Cabbage?
Yeah.
Was that late? I thought it was earlier than that.
No, it isn't. It's that late.
Well, wasn't it an early fiddle tune, or?
Huh?
I always was the impression it was a real early fiddle.
No, there's 3 or 4 things sounds like it. Like that ride on humpback mule that we had. That sounds like it. Wish I had a needle and thread fine as I could sew. Throw a baby by the side down the road I stole. Piling cabbage down, you run it right in there with it. And the Slim and Bright and me are the taffy of that. And my grandmother played those tunes on the banjo. She was a banjo player and didn't have any frets on it either. Played it without any frets. And her and my dad used to play the fiddle together. And he played that fiddle. He was a pretty good banjo picker too.
Remember any of the other songs that were real early ones that you learned from your father? You probably
Yeah, that.
If you remember
That Run,
can you listen?
Run, Darky Run, yeah, Run Nigger Run, we called it.
Yeah.
Almost all them things, and Billy Low Ground learned it from him. And
were there quite a few fiddlers?
Nancy Rowland, that's another. None of them don't know now. Nancy Rowland, and that's an Irish girl's name, you know, there's words to it too. And another was you be the gray horse and I'll be the rider, go to Betsy Watches and get a little cider. And that's kind of like Nancy Rowland, but it's not exactly the same thing. And, oh Lord, I learned Arkansas Traveler from him. Fisher's Hornpipe, Durang Hornpipe, and Ricketts Hornpipe, and Cincinnati Hornpipe. All of them, he knew all those things. He played them marvelous. He could really play them better than I ever did learn how to play them. I thought it sounded better to me than mine did.
The people around there dance to these little...
Oh yeah, we used to have... In them days, there wasn't no such thing as a dance hall where we was at down in Georgia. They had just somebody clean all the furniture out of one room, now they danced. Some farmer, you know, and my people down there done pretty well of farming, and they had all over their own farms, you know. And, up in here, they call it a plantation, but we didn't have about 1,000 or 1,500 acres. So I fiddled, and the old man fiddled too, you see. Well, that was a place to have it, because you didn't have to go hunting. And my mother beat straws. That's another thing I bet you never did hear tell of.
No, I never did.
Well, you took a broom straw, and you held it this way, you know. And Mama could beat a pretty good beat on the bass strings on a fiddle. Well, you didn't even have a banjo or guitar, baby, because Grandma, she got too old to come to the day. So she wanted to beat her at him. Look, been there, but Grandpa was too cranky to let her go to him. And, so my mother could beat the straws on the fiddle. That put that dum diddy dum diddy dum diddy dum diddy dum diddy on it, you know. It beat on the bass strings of the fiddle, and when you got playing on the bass strings, turn the fiddle over, so you'd beat on the E and A strings. But you had to keep it clear there, so it'd ring, but you played where the E and A chord would fit in there. And,
were there any...
We'd clean all the furniture out of one room, days above 1 o'clock, and the women would start frying meat. Everybody had plenty to eat.
What kind of dances did they do?
Square dances.
Did you call them square dances?
Oh, yeah.
At that time, you called them square dances?
Well, I don't know. We just called it a dance. That was before...
Did they ever do any foxtrot or popular
No,
round?
that was before Irene and Vern. I never heard tell of anything. That was before they was ever born.
Yeah.
Vernon Castle and Irene, Vernon Castle, you know, they's the one invented the foxtrot and that. Now, the long-haired dances in them days, they do the crinoline, you know. Crinoline dance, that'd be uptown at the hotel. Well, the old man, he'd go up there and play for them occasionally. And he could play that stuff too, you know. But me, I just learned his fiddling tune. But he'd get up there and play them Viennese waltzes and stuff like that, you know.
That's the type of thing I meant. I didn't mean foxtrot.
Well, he could play the Vienneses and all the stuff like that.
The more city-fied dance.
There's another long-haired fiddle player up there. They just got together, and his wife could play the piano, so that was the band around in the... But that happened up at the hotel, up in the society. Well, hell, we was farmers. We didn't have no interest in it no way. Or I didn't, but they'd send you to the old man. And my mother, sometimes she'd go along with it. She could dance that stuff too, you know. And,
no, I'm going to change the speed. Okay. You just change the speed because it's going to run out of the tape otherwise. Do you remember in those days many guitar players, or were there mostly banjoists?
There wasn't any.
No guitar players. Until when was about the first time you
Well, it started happening about 19 and, to me, rather. I didn't know I could even play a fiddle, to tell you the truth about it. We moved to Atlanta. So
when did you move to Atlanta?
1913.
1913.
And
how old were you then?
I was 13. I was born in 1900. And so got down to Atlanta, and my dad run a sawmill and everything. We had everything on the farm there, you see. And I was considered then a pretty good mechanic. So I just took up this crazy about automobiles too. I just took up mechanic. Man, let fiddle go. I didn't pay no attention. I just unconsciously play it and never said nothing about it or nothing. And So rocked on like that. We'd go to fiddling contests. I think I won one down there in Georgia. It's the original. I'll be the first fiddling contest that I ever heard of at the auditorium in Atlanta, you know. I went up to it. I think I come out about third place at old knee pants. And I come in third, and that got me kind of interested, and so we started going to the fiddling contest. It happened once a year, you know, and I finally got one first place one time, still a kid. And about 1921, the Atlanta Journal, Atlanta, Georgia, Atlanta Journal, Atlanta, Georgia, they built a radio station. And by that time, we got to hear it. I come into building these little oatmeal box radio sets, you know, so you hear it. And so they got to having an old man called Old Man Fiddler John Carson. He was an awful fine guy, don't get me wrong, but a poor fiddle player, but he sold it good.
Yeah.
Good showman. He was a fine showman, and he was a good man, very good friend of mine. But as I say, as far as comparing him with my daddy playing the fiddle, he couldn't even touch him. He goes, well, I could beat him myself. And so
he was the first one you heard on WSB.
Yeah, he's the first fiddler I heard. I had a bunch of boys we was playing together, Mike Whitman, Boss Hawkins, and Ted Hawkins, and Riley Puckett. We'd all meet every Sunday, sat on the front porch and just sit up in the front of it.
How'd you meet?
I don't know, just nature put us together, I guess.
People all lived in Atlanta, and you
yeah, we just happened to run into each other. Don't remember how we met.
You remember you asked each other, well, you play an instrument or something, and finally got together, or what?
No, it didn't happen that way. I think that we just happened to pass by and heard each other playing. Maybe I passed by and heard them, or maybe they passed by my house and heard me and just stopped and, well, just started fiddling. That's the way it happened. And so I suggested, let's go up there at that thing and fiddle on it some. Play on it some. We all did. We went up there, and so helped me. We had a pretty tight little outfit then. Sounds about like them skillet lickers you hear now. They're on them old records. And so we got up there and we told the man that we'd lied to him, you know. I'll tell you what his name was. His name was Lambden Cave. You look that up in your radio log book, you'll find who I'm talking about. The only radio announcer ever had his picture on the front page of Saturday Evening Post, and we helped him get it there.
Well,
we went up there and played that one night.
How many were there in the band?
Riley Puckett, myself, Ted Hawkins, and Boss Hawkins, Mike Whitman. That was all, and we finally added Low Stokes to it. That's what you hear me playing unison fiddle with on these records. But that was later. That was about a year later before we added Low. Maybe 2 years later.
Remember what year that was your first one on the air?
It was about 1921. Sometime in September, I think. And so we've been up there, played about 2 or 3 times, and so helped me. At that time, there's printing all the requests that you got. You know, the telegrams and letters and everything, printing newspaper over in the, they looked like classified ads to me then. I had an awful lot of it, but we moved out of Atlanta and left all that stuff down there, just like I left all these records and paid no attention to it, just like I was about playing the fiddle, didn't even know I could play. And to my opinion, I can't yet, or never did, as far as that's concerned, but anyway, we got we got 2 full pages of, like a classified ad of requests, and for some reason we just a hit overnight. It looked like what we call it now. And so here come this fellow named Frank B. Walker from New York. W-A-L-K-E-R. He's Walker, Frank B. Walker. He's now the president of MGM Records. He come down to this Columbia recording thing and took us to New York. That was the biggest thing ever happened.
How long was after you started on?
It's about 1923 or 4, somewhere along there.
2 or 3 years after you started on
the
station.
On the station. And we kept playing up there, going up there, and we got tired of playing for nothing, and we quit, and then we'd go back, and they didn't pay us nothing for it.
So the records, they didn't pay anything?
Oh, yes, they paid us for the records, but the radio station didn't pay us nothing. And so help me, we got mail and requests from the coast of the 7 seas. And I think the station is about 50 watts, but they wasn't but about, I think it and WEAF and KDK is about the only 3 radio stations, I guess, in the world. And boy, that little 50,000 watts in it, 740 kilocycles is really gold. I think that's what it's operating on, about 50 watts. A free, clear frequency. It's amazing. You get to thinking about it now after radio has come so far.
In such a short time.
In such a short time, yes. I'll say such a short time, it's that.
When you formed this little group and you practiced together, were there any other groups in the area, or was this something kind of new to get a bunch of swing musicians together in a large group?
It wasn't anything new down there, because everybody played. Nearly everybody had a little string band. We have a country dance out somewhere, they had their own music there.
Both in Atlanta and out in the rural areas?
Yeah, it's out in the rural areas and everywhere. But we was the most popular ones because I could play louder than the rest of them. I played an old man's fiddle. He had this Ancino Fiori. I used to in the car to see it back, and I'll show it to you. They brought it over from Italy, Ancino Fiorini, made in Bologna, Italy in 1723. I still got it. And played it all the time, played it on all the Skillet Liquor records and everything.
So you were about the first group to record, though, more
We was the first ones ever.
People.
No, now wait a minute. Fiddling John Carson, that is before Moonshine Kate. She's just a little bitty girl then. She grew up. But old man Fiddling John, he beat us to the phonograph records on OK.
But he was just a soloist.
Yeah, he's just a soloist. There wasn't a group with
I
him.
meant a group.
Yeah, well, we had the first group. And so that rocked on, went on to about 1932 or 3. And we decided then that we'd take radio for sure. And well, as I told you a while ago, this Slim Bryant, he was a youngster, you know.
So how did Kit Tanner come into the picture first?
Well, they had heard about him and old man Fiddling John. They were strictly competition to each other. And at the fiddling contest, you see. And if Gid didn't win, old man John would. When I beat them both, you know, the one time there I beat both of them. I come in front. But I was just a kid. Well, that kid can't play fiddle. You need him old men to play fiddle. And I had a rough way to go there. So naturally the outfit come down and inquiring around, you know. But they'd heard about this group that I had. And they picked Riley and they left us out of it, the rest of us. They took Riley and Gid and made the first 1 or 2 records, just 2, you know, duets of affair. Well, actually speaking, it didn't ring the cash register. And they was hooked there, and old man Fiddling John and his partner was, they're doing all right. So I don't know who told them. I think Lamb and Kane told them, said, you better get McMichen there. Said, he's the fellow you're hunting. And they come and hunting me up, you know. That's when the group went to New York. But they still held on to Gid because they done spent all that money advertising him, you know. In other words, I was at the shot in the arm to the group, and as my group was playing with, and they added him to it, and I didn't like that because he didn't play exactly our type of music. But we just had to put up with it. It's a break we got, and it paid us good money, and so we just went along with it. The whole thing was good, too.
How did you start learning new songs? I mean, what sources did you pick up new songs?
Oh,
Time went on. So from the old days, the early days, when you first got together.
Well, when a new song would come out, like popular music, we always played that too. We played that then, yeah. Right then, yeah. We kept up with a new tune, just the hits. Not every turkey that come out. We kept up with a hit. Like the hit tune, like Blue Skies and Jasmine Blues and Royal Garden Blues and stuff like that, you know. Dixieland Jazz is right in its heaven then. We learned every one of them, and it's Milenberg Joys and all them things, you know. We learned them off phonograph records. We'll get the record and play it on the phonograph and learn it and it got too rough, get the old man to play it for me. Go buy the music and get him to play it for me on the fiddle, and I'd learn it, and the rest of them then
Well, what proportion of your radio program was these pop numbers, and what proportion was...
whatever they asked for. We all
Do you remember about how it came out? So just
well, it actually, country music then was in its infancy. And naturally a song hit out. Everybody would hear that song hit, and we'd play it. And it right to then, I'm sorry to say, for I have no apologies to make about it. Let's just say it. Even the popular music then on the radio, until we got some phonograph records out, mind you, was leading. But after our records come out, and we had 2 or 3 hits just one right after another, you know, well, then they pulled in, won't sing it, we'll hear that. Because they had the record there at home, let's hear them play that record. Well, that's when actually country music come into its glory right then.
I see. Well, how come you didn't record the pop numbers, but your records were all the country numbers?
It had already been recorded, and that's the funny thing. I'm going to tell you exactly what the man said. He told, I won't play them. He told me, says, Max, I want to tell you something. He says, I wonder why you think that we bring all this equipment coming down here from New York, Atlanta to get this music you fellas play, instead of just getting them fellas up there in New York to play it and be done with it. He says, they don't know this music. Says there's millions up there that can play that them popular tunes that come out that you hear and learning after them. I said, yes, but I still think people would like them better played on string music than do them horns. And we tried a few of it, it didn't mean a thing. But he just says, okay, I agree with it. Says, go ahead, cut them. Says, I'll release them. Says, I'll run a streamer on them. He did. He gave them a fair shake. And he didn't know because it might have clicked. It was an idea, but it didn't mean nothing. We get on that old game, you know, and it just go like a house of fire.
Used by that time to the Hoeptner hillbilly stuff.
Well, they'd been wanting it all the time. And especially the time there wasn't anyone singing those songs. They just played them with a brass band, you might say, or jazz band. Good little Dixieland combination, you know, like Red Nichols and his 5 pennies and some of them. Well, Riley Puckett proved people wanted to hear singing. He's the only singer we had. We could join in behind him, you know, and some of that stuff that you got there.
He was about the first one to feature a vocal.
He was, we featured the vocalist.
There was sometimes some sort of...
And if he didn't sing the records, why, they didn't sell much. So we found that out right quick. And I guess that's the origin of the whole business right there. I don't know. I would claim credit for it, but that's the way, exactly the way it happened.
I wish we could find the actual answer to those.
I do too.
Well, these other people in the band, what kind of musical training do they have? Are most of them just like Tanner and Riley Puckett and the other ones you mentioned?
Riley got most of his training from me, which is poor training, let's put it that way. And I got my training from the old man. By listening to him, not asking him questions. Just sitting around saying nothing and listening. I had a good ear, or they said I did. I never think I did, but they said I had a good ear and pick up stuff fast, you know. I could always hear chords. I don't know why. I should have played a guitar instead of a fiddle.
I guess it must have been, I guess some people have it and some don't.
I don't know what it is, and I'm no different from nobody else. And
well, there's a lot of people who mean nothing to them. They can't hear chords.
Well, I can hear chords. I always could hear chords. And I taught Riley most of his chords, and he had a style of his own, but Riley would listen to reason. You show him that a chord sounded better than the ones he's making, he'd play it. If you'd take his fingers and put them on the strings, on a fret, you know, where he could find them. He's blind, you know, he's stone blind. And,
Can we get some of that record there?
Well, y'all can cut it out.
Oh, yeah.
Now, about that,
Go ahead.
well, it's got to playing that thing that I fiddle for you. One thing you're up against in this show business, let's just name it that. Now, you can walk out there And I always tried to make it a fiddle look like the easiest thing on earth to play. I never did weave and bobble and jump around. Just lay it up there and play it and look and grin at everybody while you're doing it. And I made it a habit to try to make it look like the easiest thing on earth to do. Not getting bent over, get your hair all mussed up and losing your shoes and all that stuff, you know. I think that's silly, because you don't have to do that to play a fiddle. Sit up there and play the thing. If you can play it, you don't have to go into all that strain about it. But if you do that, people sit there on their hands, and you're not exciting them any. But if you put that action in there, why then they sort of get excited about it. It's like a bunch of children. The easiest people on earth, fooling the hardest thing on earth you ever seen to try to fool. And that lick right there on that Sally Goodness, play it for you. It's a lot of bow action on that stuff that I wasn't a-doing. That flipping that bow up there hard, a full-length stroke every time. Boy, they think you're really going then. But it's actually good fiddling. You heard it there. You settled down there and just, really put that in there as you're playing 64 notes all the way through it. And you're fiddling then. But they'll sit there on their hands and think they ain't doing nothing. Now, the old-timers know it, but there's not enough old-timers left. It look like you two pairs, you pair here, going to be some awful good old-timers some of these days.
You remember how the name Skillet Liquors came into being?
Yes, I do. That gets back to the fiddling contest. Atlanta, Georgia. The first one that I told you about that I ever heard of. His name was, I don't know what his name was, but we call him Professor Alex Smart. And supposed to be funny, but I didn't think it was very funny. Oh, we had a little group then, the same group. We'd come out there and attend that fiddling contest. They called us the Lick the Skillet Band.
Oh.
That was what we was known as. And Jed Tanner didn't play it at all. He just singled go out there, and however...
You remember about these Columbia...
let me finish this first. Let me finish telling you this. As I said a while ago, Gid was... You have to have a funny man in a band to get along pretty well. And he was, let's just say, a fair country comedian. And I'd like to add this to it. With all due respect to everybody, there's an awful lot of difference between being funny and silly. And a lot of people never did find that out. Never hit that happy medium. So let's close it off right there and draw your opinion.
Okay. I know. It's about already drawn. That was
Yes, sir.
The Columbia Rural Drama records, I think like the Corn Liquor Still in Georgia, and the Medicine Show, and Kickapoo Joy Juice.
Oh, yeah.
Whose idea were they, and how did they come about, and who wrote them?
Well, this medicine show, we've got to give that to Hugh Cross. So that's what
Was that the first one, or was the Corn Liquor Still in Georgia?
No, the Corn Liquor Still is first. That was Bert Lane and my idea. We had a brother-in-law down there in Georgia that did actually make liquor. And we'd go up there and help him at his still, you know. Just to the fun to us, they thought us to send every one of us to jail. I mean, to send us to sure enough jail. There wouldn't be no kidding about that. And we took a chance on it. So, we got to help him make the liquor. We got to thinking about it, and Bert spoke up one day and says, you know, Max, the conversation we carry on down there at that still, over there in Georgia mountains, you know. I mean, it's sure enough mountains. He says, we ought to make a record of that. So call it Corn Liquor Still in Georgia. I said, let's do. And we got down there and got the producer to help us write it out and fix it all up, you know. And producer was Bill Brown.
Bill Brown.
Yeah, and he helped us write it out and kind of get in shape. We rehearsed it about, I guess, about an hour and a half. And went ahead and made it. The doggone thing sold over 1 million records. Can you imagine that?
There were about 12 parts finally, weren't there?
Yeah.
Number 12.
We made 7 records of it.
14.
Yeah, 14 parts. And I'd like to tell you this, the experience I got out of it. Sometimes you try it out there in California, if you got any hills like that. You get you a 15-gallon keg, oak keg, and put 10 gallons of liquor in it, or just water if you can't find the liquor, and start walking over a hill with it. It starts sloshing you. And if you can carry that over that, you just write to your car and tell him you're a man without dropping it or throwing you down. A 15-gallon keg with 10 gallons of water in it. Put on your shoulder, start walking across the hill with it. It'll throw you every way but loose.
What did you think when you made those records? Do you think you were making fun of what was going on around there, or just kind of joking, tongue-in-cheek?
No, it was.
Or were you making fun of?
No, it wasn't. We wasn't pitching no fun at nobody. It was amusing to us. We thought it was we done got up into the production end of the thing by then, you know, getting to be old seasoned heads and find out what was selling and what wasn't selling. And to us, it was just another phonograph record that we thought would be amusing to the people. It proved out to be.
And you didn't do all 14 parts at one, did you?
Oh, Lord, no. We do 2 a year.
Oh. And then the medicine.
No, we do 4 parts a year. That's what we do. That's how long it lasts.
The medicine show came after that?
Well, I came in between. It was doing, the liquor still was doing all right. Said, well, let's try another release, and we tried anything like that. But just actual, honest things that happen. As I said a while ago, there's a lot of difference between silly and funny. There's a lot of things different, but you can't imagine, you can't make a person imagine something that's impossible to happen. You follow me? And in them days, you used your imagination to draw the picture of what you was hearing. And, well, I'll repeat it, that impossible to make a man imagine seeing something that he knows that it is impossible to happen. But if it did happen sometime or other, well, then he'll use his imagination to picture it out. That's just like this white earth and all that stuff. People reading it goes, oh, big, it did, things like that did, it once happened. And so it's just allegiance, they'll accept it and believe it. In other words, if it is so impossible, like a lot of things you see in the funny paper and the television, why, yes, there's some things that are impossible to happen. And they usually wind up as a flop show and close the show off. A 13-week run. And it's just, you've got to stick to that actual things that could happen, or could have happened. I don't know, that's the way I see it. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not Fred Astaire, I'm not
I think you're right.
none of them big names out there, and there's none of those things, but
I think you're right. What names, did you ever use the word hillbilly to refer to your music?
we never did. We just,
What name did you use?
we just used the skillet lickers.
You never called it hillbilly music?
We never did use the term
Did you
hillbilly.
ever use the term folk, or what term?
Folks, no, we never used that. We just never, in fact, the matter, we never did call, in fact, the matter, we never classed it as any type of music. We called it music. String band, what we call it, string music.
Did you differentiate it between that and popular music, though?
No, we never, because they knew us by our reputation. You would play anything they asked for. Didn't make any difference. It's variety in music.
Oh, then, well, you might as well go on after the skillet lickers. What happened? How did you leave the skillet lickers and all that? You kind of
Oh, well, the record business fell through the hole about 1932. 31 or 32, somewhere along there. And so we just broke up and quit. I had, a new group, because I had 2 or 3 of them in the skillet lickers that never did like no how. No use to sit here and lie about it. I had 2 or 3 in there that couldn't play. I just replaced them with people that could. Slim Brown was one of the replacements. And
who were the members of the skillet lickers just before they broke up?
oh, Git Tanner and myself and Pete and R.S. and Riley Puckett. We kept Riley out of the crew. No, he wasn't a member of the skillet lickers. But he would have liked to have had him, but at that time he was out of job himself. And and we could have easily accepted you. But we finally wound up and started calling it the Georgia Wildcats. Had Slim Bryant, Jack Dunnigan, Bert Lane, and
What did Jack Dunnigan play? What instrument?
yeah, he was good.
What instrument did
He played guitar.
Guitar.
Slim Bryant taught him mostly what he knew. The boy I said about took the lessons from Perry Bexel, the man out of Phil's the Stallions band. And Slim was a fine guitarist, I mean modern. And we played, and actually we played and sang those things like a Home in Wyoming, and the hillbilly music, as they term it today, used to be things like that, you know, a Home in Wyoming, and pretty tunes, beautiful things, and Carson Robinson, and this boy Hugh Farr, and all them guys out there, Tim Spencer, write them pretty things, you see, and it's beautiful, and everybody liked to play them. We used 3 fiddles on them, you see, and play the right chords, but the fact of the matter is, I never could tell no difference in a hillbilly tune and a popular tune. If you play just as many chords in Coming Around the Mountain as it is a sextet from Lucia, if you'll play them.
Yeah, you can put them in there.
Why, sure you can, and all your diminishes.
And D, a minor.
Yeah, that's right. We never could tell no difference. It didn't make no difference to us. It all sounded just like to us.
Well, I noticed when you formed your own band, the Georgia Wildcats, why the style changed from to a more modern style.
That's right.
And you did a lot of pop songs this time. You
That's
recorded,
right.
Many pop songs, in fact, mostly on Decca. How did this come about, the style change?
Well, the reason why that about all the PD stuff available had been used up. And it also hit that old adage you've always heard, that money talks. And so if you wrote your own song, copyrighted, and put it on there, you just got 2 more cents on the side than you would have got if you hadn't done it, and you'd be silly not to do it. So we just come into writing our own songs and rehearsing them and putting them on. And our songs, we was writing them, I guess, mostly on the modern side. What, darling? Okay, honey. Bye, sweetheart.
Well, Bryant must have known all the modern chords and things.
Oh, he did. He was a modern. He could play in
modern chords.
Sure, he could play in anybody's band. It was Tommy Dorsey's or Jimmy's or anybody. And they'd have been glad to have had him. Because he was terrific. The fact of the matter, here's a story you won't believe. There used to be a fellow in WLS in Chicago called Rhubarb Red. A lot of people don't know this. You may.
I've heard the name. I heard this.
That's right, Les Paul. And he had Slim Bryant, and he was a 3/4 when he come there. He had Slim Bryant back in the rehearsal room.
Sure glad you got to see me, Papa. Goodbye.
Bye, Dave, honey. And he had Slim Bryant back in the rehearsal room more than we had Slim to rehearse our programs. Old Slim taught him an awful lot. And Les turned out to be all right. Rhubarb Red, Les Paul.
What city was this if you were a Wildcat?
Chicago.
Down in Georgia, were they? Would you go up to Chicago and
Oh, we started our Georgia Wildcats on WLW in Cincinnati. We had a row at WCKY over in Covington. And that's where we dropped Riley. Riley stuck with WCKY. And so we just
How did you
replaced
get up
him.
there from Georgia? Well, I heard we were still down in Georgia. When did you get
Oh,
up
we
there?
left Georgia, went on WCKY in 1931. And they had the percentage a little bit too high for us. And we had a contract with them, tried to get out from under it, and they wouldn't do it. And so we just left and went to court about it, and we won, and broke them off, and went to WLW. No, Gid wasn't there. They finally sent and got Gid, but it was too late then. Gid and Riley couldn't do what, it may sound bragging, but they couldn't do what Clayton and Bert and Slim could do. And so we was the ones that always backed Riley up and made him sound good all the way through the thing. So they figured to get Gid up there, and we give them a lick it alive over on WLW. They don't CKY. I told the man WLW, they put it all on the same time. I thought, well, it's exactly the same time they got. Well, we give him a licking who laid the rail.
Well, you slowly learned the more modern chords and things then,
Oh, we knew when we left Georgia. Oh, that's the
You
third
never played them down there, did you?
Yeah.
Well, not on these records.
Oh, no.
I haven't heard any modern chords on there.
Well, I tell you what, if you get that, I can't say, I made 2 or 3 records with Perry Bexell, this boy that took,
Perry Bexell and
yeah.
the Colonels, I think it was.
Well, now you get him, Slim, if you hear that, that's Dan Hornsby, and one of the boys out of Warren 7/8, I've forgotten what his name is, House of David Blues.
Mm-hmm.
You'll find that on Columbia Records. That was Perry Bexell, myself, and
That was the group that's known as McMichen's Melodies.
yeah, that's right. A lot of those records, Perry Bexell was on. You'd hear the modern stuff there. I mean, more modern than a lot of guys are playing today. So that boy was, oh, Lord.
How many of you, he was the one that kind of brought the modern influence into
our outfit.
Perry
Well,
Bexell.
Slim's the one that took lessons from the Slim Bryant.
You say, when did Bexell come to Georgia? And you
Oh,
say,
about
I don't
1928 or
think he told me
29,
this
somewhere
before,
along.
but it didn't get on the tape. So he left the colonies then
Yeah, about 27, 8 or 9, somewhere along there.
and came to Georgia.
Yeah.
How did he meet up with you?
Well, he's working at Cable Piano Company, and he was lonesome to play some music, and I used to go in and buy him a string and stuff and talk to anybody that talked to me. And he come to find out I was making phonograph records somewhere or another, I don't know how. So he hit me up to let him record some records with us. I said, okay. And well, I just took him down there and used him on everything I could.
So did he ever bring up the point that maybe he was playing too modern for you? And
No, we wanted it that way. We just hungry for some modern music.
Or did
anyway.
you want him to play that way?
Yeah. We didn't know that we were playing a style. We didn't learn that till about, 10 or 15 years later.
Oh.
That we had a style there that somebody expected us to stick to because we didn't have no style. We just, only reason we played them skillet liquor records like that because they paid us to play it like that. In fact, the matter, that wasn't what we was wanting to do.
Yeah.
Period.
That's interesting, really it is. I thought it was done the other way around.
No.
You asked me before I talked
We
to
were
you.
strictly against that, absolutely. First place, as I told you a while ago, we didn't like to play it Gid and Faith because they just was about 30 years behind us, or 40 in the music business.
Do you know what particular person wanted you to play that way?
No, the
the
trumpet.
A&R man, Frank something.
As the producer, Frank B. Walker.
He was the one that
Yeah.
guided you all over.
And he's one guy that's been trying to teach us some sense, and we didn't have sense enough to know what he's trying to do. And he's the one pulled us through and made a name for us and everything, and made something out of it. But we strictly again that all the way through. Now, my type of even that kind of music was Riley Puckett, myself, and a bass player we had. Like that now, Ida Red and Sally Gooden. Did you ever get that record we made together? Just
That
two of them?
real old,
Yeah.
acoustical one.
Yeah, old acoustical thing.
I think I've heard it. A friend of mine had.
That's the way I like to play my fiddling, with just him. We didn't have nobody out there messing up and hollering and singing that falsetto voice and everything. And I didn't like that. I was serious about my fiddling. When it comes to fiddling, I didn't want no foolishness in it, in other words. Which is making a mistake, I guess, myself, because that silliness behind it, as I said a while ago, was a happy medium between being silly and funny. And to me, it wasn't funny, so I thought it was silly. And there's a lot of people in the show business today, too, that's silly instead of funny, and they got big names, but they never have tickled me none.
How did you learn these songs? Do you remember where you learned some of these songs, like John Henry, or where did you learn that?
Oh, Lord, that's born, isn't it?
I mean, you said, you were mentioning...
You've heard
earlier
that all
that
your life. Your mama sung that rocking you in the cradle.
Yeah, I know. But you mentioned that while we were playing it earlier, that you hope Riley remembered that one chorus, and you know you taught it to him.
Oh, yeah.
Did you teach Riley the song, or what?
No, he heard that. He's rocked in the cradle by it just like me. Mother singing, I guess. That's strictly an old American folk song.
You remembered all the choruses, or?
Yeah, you hear it. There's a million choruses to it. But the one I'd love to know right now, and I can't remember it, is the one how that deal come out. They said John Henry on the right-hand side, the steam drill on the left, and Riley knew it, but I was hoping he'd sung it on that. Maybe somebody got one he'd sang it on. And the foreman checked them at some time of day, and the old steam drill didn't sink it but 9 feet, and John Henry sank it 18. Now that's,
Damning part.
yeah. John Henry beat him and fell dead.
I think that someone did a big study on the song, and they fixed the Big Bend Tunnel in West Virginia or something like that.
No, it's on the Southern Pacific where it was at. Yeah, Southern Union Pacific.
Where? What area?
I don't know. I imagine it's a big divide, though. Great divide where it happened. That's where they run a tunnel through that thing, you know.
Yeah.
That's about where it is at.
What about Casey Jones? Where'd you learn that?
Oh, that was a popular song, you know, in 1910 or 11. My old phonograph record. That was a rope song. That is, you know, it's a popular tune, and it was like Steamboat Bill and all that. But they were down here from Casey, Kentucky. And his name wasn't Casey Jones. He was from Casey, Kentucky. She's still living down here now. Down in Liberty, Kentucky. You ought to go down there and interview her.
Where?
Down in Casey, Kentucky. His widow's still living down there.
I've heard that it was that.
Yeah, Casey, Kentucky. That's where he's from.
How did you learn about that? Just out of curiosity.
Well, it's down at Liberty. We played there a dozen times. That Kerry Journal come out with a dozen stories on it. I got it up there in the scrapbook reading about it somewhere. Where he was killed at and everything. What train he's on. How come? That's the other injury. They didn't have a heady collision. There's another train that just didn't clear and he hit the cab. Hit the back end of it. What killed him.
How about shortening bread? Remember that?
Oh, that's old.
Big balls in town.
Well, I don't. That's a different tune. We just made up words to that. That's a.
But there's been other versions. There's usually any other town except Brooklyn. There's been one put out in Big Balls in Memphis and Big Balls in Cowtown and I don't know what all.
Well, that's the first one. They changed it to suit their own town.
Well, what was
But that tune is, I think Burt Laney with Fool Walker with it. That was Bill Johnson, we called it. We're trying to make another bully of the town out of it. It failed, and we come over big ball in town, over in Wordsworth, on Riley. Played the same tune, and that's what it turned out to be. I don't think it set the woods afire itself.
Well, it's a well-known song.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you know it, but there was a record made of it just about a year ago.
Yeah.
But you couldn't probably get any royalties from it.
No, I don't think we even copyrighted it. Thinking of it copyrighted.
Well, how about Run Nigger Run and all these other
That's
stuff?
strictly PD.
Public domain.
Yeah. I don't even remember where I learned it. I guess I learned it from my daddy.
And I Don't Love Nobody.
That's mine.
You wrote it?
Yeah.
Were there words to it?
Yeah.
How come you never recorded the words?
We did.
You did?
Yeah, we were still at the right
Bob
thing.
Wills did it, and it wasn't, gave no composer credit or anything.
No, they put my name on half that stuff. I got a list of a bunch of cards about like that upstairs, copyright. Got the renewals in there, in the pines, you know.
Yeah, well, how'd you come to write In the Pines?
I don't know. Got a little lonesome one night. Mama had the kids and went up there with people, you know, and I had something to do. I think I got home, they wasn't there. And we were, Mom and the two daughters and myself and grandkids there, we awfully still affectionate and live pretty close together. And it's just one of the things. They all go and you can hear by yourself. This damn place in the world, all of gold. And sometimes you wish they'd all leave so it'd get a little quiet.
Yeah.
And then when they do, then you're getting your cars and go follow them.
So
That was one of the times. She went up to, she took the children. It wasn't no fighting or quarreling. We quarrel a little once in a while, but it wasn't that what it's about, you know. Just, I played that dance in Atlanta and got back and they were all gold. I was there in the house by myself. Got lonesome, sit down, got picking the guitar and humming that old theme, you know, and wrote the words to it.
I thought Arthur Smith, or who was given the composer credit on Bluebird? Oh, Bluebird? Yeah, Arthur Smith
Well, the only one I've known about was Doc Walsh on the Doc Walsh record, why Walsh is given credit as the composer.
And I know Arthur Smith put out a version in Monroe. Oh, Bill Monroe did.
Bill did his credit for it.
Oh, he did?
Deckard. Well, it just got me too, but them little outlaws got me there, and I'll put anything on. Yeah, who knows, get too much.
Yeah. But original published in the Fine, 1930, by Clayton McMichen. Copyright.
Huh?
Oh, it says in from Brian.
That ought to clear that argument up, oughtn't it?
Pines in the pines, where the sun never shines. You'll shiver when the sun doesn't go.
There's another you might have heard, Smoky Mountain Home. There's a renewal on it.
Yeah, I guess that's what I heard.
Cumberland Valley Waltz, there's a renewal on it. And there's the name in there. And there still is this. Well, this,
Bexel wasn't on the House of David Blues. Which one was he on?
I don't remember.
That was Puckett on the House of David Blues.
Yeah. And Jimmy and
Jimmy Rogers.
yeah.
What is that letter say from Rogers? Well, son, here's the dose on recording.
Well, it says here to start with that from Wolford, Kerrville, Texas, America's Blue Yodeler, Jimmy Rogers, exclusive Victor recording star, en route, Meridian, Mississippi, July the 27th, 1932. Mr. Clayton McMichen, your radio station, WHK, Cleveland, Ohio. Hello, Clayton. Well, son, here's the dope on recording. I plan to leave here about Sunday morning, July 31st, arriving in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, Wednesday evening, the 3rd of August, and will expect you to meet me then, or not later than Thursday or Friday, August the 4th or 5th. We will meet at my brother and sister-in-law's house, Mr. and Mrs. Elliot Nelson. The address is as follows: 748 Abbey Place, Northeast, and old fiddler and violin playing fool I show is looking for you to be there. I'm driving through in the old Cadillac. Miss Rogers, my little daughter, Anita will be with me as far as Washington, and we will go on to New York together. I am planning on having a good banjo player to go with us. You may know him. His name is Odie McWindows. And boy, can he play a banjo. Yeah.
McWindows.
Yeah, McWindows. Odie McWindows. I'll say he can. Mac, he plays a fine string banjo old style and also plays all the popular stuff. I mean, takes solos and plays leads. Well, he beats any damn thing I ever heard of playing a banjo, barring nobody. Mr. Peer, that's Ralph Peer, you know, Victor, Southern Music or Peer International. Mr. Peer says he, WNTS, wants me to do at least 10 numbers, so if you have anything off your own, be sure to bring it along, because I'm pretty sure I can get several of your songs recorded. Then after the recording is all finished, we will go under the hammer for the audition with the NBC, which seems like a pretty good break, as they have been wanting WNTI. He wanted me to work, and bless his heart, to work in New York for the last 2 or 3 years. Now, about this guitar player you spoke of to me on the phone a few days ago at a Slim Bryant. I will do all I can to get Mr. Peer to use him, but I would rather not guarantee anything for him. But I will pay his expenses if he cares to come along with you and take a chance on working. I mean, eating and sleeping expenses, as long as he is with us. Your same old pal, Jimmy Rogers. That was the time I recorded Peach Picky Time in Georgia, and Slim wrote the Mother, the Queen of My Heart.
Did he actually play on the session finally?
Yeah, he played everything on the session.
Yeah.
He's tickled to death to have it. He could play Slim good. Can you too?
Joe Davis. Did you talk about Joe Davis, how you got connected with
Well,
Joe Davis?
yeah,
and
we
Stevie
learned-
Outfit?
We learned about him from my Carolina home, the first song I ever wrote in my life. And he handled it for us and done a good job of it. That's Joe Davis Music Publishing Company. He's all right.
Well, how did you record on Varsity label?
I didn't. That is just some old records they didn't use on Columbian Soul with masters to them.
Varsity.
Yeah,
All I've Got Is Gone, and
yeah.
what about Jeanette? Were they from Jeanette?
No, Joe Davis bought out Jeanette. You know, they were in Richmond, Indiana. He bought them out and also bought all the old masters he could get a hold of that Columbia didn't use. And and published them that way.
Well, see, the band sounded so much different on that.
It was. We didn't have the same band.
Who was it on
Had
that?
a Slim Bryant and Oldie McWinders, these we just got through talking about.
And you?
And myself, we went on up there to Columbia and made everything we could think of, because we knew the jig was up on records at that time. And so they just scattered them old masters anywhere they'd invited by. They paid us, I think, $100 a piece to make.
$100 a piece.
Yeah.
That wasn't bad.
No, it wasn't bad. It's 1932. That was a lot of money. As an announcer we used to have, I don't know if you ever heard tell of it or not, Alan C. Anthony of Mars Bars. Well, he's Jonathan Blake now on the web
Oh, it's
television. He used to be in other words, we broke him into the announcing business here on WHS in Louisville. That's another picture of the Wildcats. That's Jerry Wallace, Ken Newton, Lockley Bryant, Slim Bryant, myself. That's the crowd that we had at the Rivalry Theater here. That's the old stuff you're looking at here now. I mean, this is strictly in the 30s.
old time fiddler
Yeah,
contest. $50 in prizes.
And first, the Clayton McMichen World Champion fiddler 16 times, Georgia Wildcat, National Champion String Band,
Chicken stripling.
Chicken Stripling, National Champion Book and Wing Dancer, and scores of others. That was Carl Cotner and Boogie. That's the best string band right there I've heard in my life with that many people in it. That's Carl Cotner and Book Yates, myself, Merle Travis, and Bookie, and Blackie Case. And that's the one that actually made the Decca record of Farewell Blues. That Spade Julie told me when he was here that he set up and burnt a pink of midnight oil. And he's Spade's a nice guy, you know. He just says, I'll tell you, he says, I just set up the style of my band from that record. And he did, too. He got the best string band in the business. I don't borrowing none in my book. And now you can see him close there. They broke that picture out. You can recognize old Myrtle there now. That's when he disappeared.